Hello, and welcome back to another episode of How She Does It. This episode is going up in April, which is wild to me because a year ago I was depressed and sitting in my corporate job. I had my daughter in daycare, and every single day when I went to drop her off, I was contemplating why I was spending the money that I was to put her in daycare, and I was struggling so hard with the fact that I was taking time away from her to work this job that I absolutely hated. And I was working that job to earn the money to put her in daycare. Like, it was such a backwards type of situation, to the point where I was actually dreaming of working in a grocery store. I was sitting in a six-figure tech sales role, and I was dreaming of being a cashier, of doing a job where you just clock in and clock out, and that's it, and it was simple. Because I hated the interactions that I was having on a daily basis with my clients. That level of unhappiness can seem strange when, arguably, I was working a great job, I was making great money, but I know that a lot of you can relate to that feeling of hating your job and understanding that you're just meant for so much more than what you're currently doing. But you just feel stuck on how to get there because the bills and the responsibility, those are all very real things that need to be taken care of. That's why today I want to talk about the tips that can actually transform your life so that in a year from now, you're living a completely different reality. The fact that just 12 months ago, I was sitting in a job that I hated and I was so unhappy, and now I literally have my dream career. The first thing I want to talk about is being action-oriented. One of the most unproductive things that you can do is complain, but it's hard not to complain when you're with your family or your friends, and when you feel like you're stuck in a soul-sucking job. When you know deep down that you're made for more than what you're doing right now, complaining is so easy. Everyone does it. So the next time you go to complain about your job or your body or your relationship, I want you to write it down. Write down what you're actually unhappy with. That's going to make it so clear to you what the problem is so that you can take action against it. What you should actually do is view your problem through a different lens. If you start looking at the problems you have as a disease or an attack on your life that you need to eradicate, you're going to naturally put yourself into problem-solving mode. Get out of the complainer mindset and put yourself into a position where you're actually fixing the things that need to be fixed. I know that you don't want to vent for the next 20 years and be miserable. You want to fix it, so write it down. Being action-oriented is so important because 99% of people are just going to stay complacent, stay put, and stay complaining. Don't be that person. Write down your problems and figure out a solution. And you can either view these issues in your life one of two ways: as things in your control or things out of your control. The next thing that you need to do is figure out how to invest in yourself. One of my favorite sayings ever is readers are leaders. The cheapest thing that you can do that's going to produce the biggest ROI is buying a book. $20 could change your life. I also think it's so important to listen to podcasts, get a gym membership, figure out how you can invest in your mind, in your body, in your soul, and make a real and tangible shift to your schedule so that you can shift your mindset to the possibilities of the things that you can achieve. Because these changes don't happen overnight. Real and sustained change happens gradually and over time. So what you need to do is shake things up. You cannot sit in misery and expect a wonderful life to fall into your lap. You need to get up and do something about it. That also means shifting your attention away from the things in your life that do not serve you. Evaluate everything. Evaluate the people in your life, your current routine, what's making you happy, what's holding you back. Anything that's holding you back, cut that shit off at the knees. Holding on to what you know because it's safe or because it's familiar is the quickest way to suffocate the life out of your dream. Restart, reset, and refocus. By shaking up your routine, you're also going to remember what it feels like to feel joy again. And before you make big life decisions like quitting your job or moving to a new city, you have to be able to make that decision in a calm and collected place. I don't believe in making decisions when you're in a state of panic. Now you need to dig into the foundation of what you want out of life and define it. One of my business coaches has this whole philosophy on defining your rich life. Figuring out what is important to you and how you're going to be able to live the best life for you, that means getting out a piece of paper and writing it down. How are you supposed to make a huge change if you have no idea what you're changing for? You have to have a driver. You have to have a why. You have to have a purpose behind what you're doing. Picture your life in 10 years from now. Where do you live? What job do you have? How much money do you have in your bank account? What do you do on a random Saturday? I want you to write all of that down. Then I want you to picture the type of person that's living that life. What are their habits? Who do they surround themselves with? What do they do in their spare time? Answering those questions is going to help you fill in the gaps for the life that you want to live. If you picture the person that's living that life, that's essentially who you want to be, which means you're going to have to let go of the patterns and the routines that are holding you back right now and push forward into something greater, into the person that you know that you can be. Now, planning is so crucial. When I decided I wanted to quit my job, I wrote a pro-cons list. How much money I would make if I stayed until X date versus how unhappy I would be sitting in that seat for the next 6 months. I evaluated if waiting longer would make it harder for me to act on my plan, and I picked a quit date. Now, spoiler alert, I ended up leaving months prior to that date, but I have never looked back. And I think it's really important to ask yourself, what do you think that you're going to miss out on by making a change, by quitting a job, by moving to a different city? None of these changes that you make have to be permanent. I quit my corporate job. That doesn't mean I can never go back into that space. I've moved to different cities. It doesn't mean that I can no longer move home. But taking risks is so productive in order to figure out what you actually want. If you don't try anything new, you'll never discover anything new about yourself. And there is this corporate mentality that sometimes feels a little bit like a toxic boyfriend. Like, you must be so grateful to have this job. You're so lucky to be here. They tell you to look at the people in the world that are struggling right now. And it's this mindset that keeps you thinking, you're right, I should be grateful that I'm here. I should feel blessed to even be employed. And the longer they keep you focused on how grateful you should be to even be in that seat, because it could be worse, the less time your soul has to act on the reasons why you shouldn't be there. Don't let someone manipulate you into thinking that you've hit your peak. And then you need to leap. Pick your date and do the damn thing. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. It's important to figure out what you're going to need in order to not drown. How much time are you going to need? How much money, etc. For me, it was super important to not start out my entrepreneurial journey in debt, and I wanted to have a savings. I personally can't function creatively if I'm super worried about finances. And starting a business costs money. So get together a savings, figure out how much it costs to live your life, how long it's going to take you to save that amount of money, and then pick a date that you're going to make a move. After you've made a huge life change, it's important to leave room for you to adjust your strategy, to adjust what you want, and to leave room for you to shift your tactics. You can have a strategy of, I want to quit my job and I want to build a business or do XYZ. And when you're living in a corporate space or when you're living a certain type of life with a certain routine and certain habits, the strategy that you built might not be what you have to do in real time to make money or to live that life. So make sure that you're super flexible in that time period to be able to shift and be malleable and be open to new possibilities, because your adjustment phase can be a couple of months. And when you make a huge life shift, it's normal to feel uncomfortable. So feeling prepared to be uncomfortable is a real thing. I think the one thing that I wasn't prepared for when I quit my job was the feeling of judgment that I placed on myself. And I don't want you to do that to yourself. There's enough judgment that comes outwards. Don't let it go inward. And then you need to be ready to scale. You don't take a leap of faith to live a smaller life. And so make sure as you're moving along this journey that when the opportunity arises, you continue to expand. The journey is not easy, but it is 100% worth it. As humans, we are programmed to think about all of the things that can go wrong in order to protect ourselves. When you take a leap of faith and change your whole life, the automatic negative thoughts that you think, that you're going to fail, that you don't have it in you, that it's not worth it, you need to shut those down immediately. Do not accept those thoughts as your own, because it's not normal to hate your job that much. You weren't born to clock into a 9 to 5 that you absolutely hate to make money and to die. You were born to do something bigger. You have a bigger purpose here, and you are meant to impact people. In whatever industry you're in, don't let those negative thoughts push you out of the life that you deserve. Quitting my job a year ago was the scariest thing that I've ever done, and I had a baby in a pandemic. If I had let the fear of how I'm going to provide for her, the fear of what people would think, the fear of not knowing what I'm doing, stop me from pushing forward, then you wouldn't be listening to this today. 0.01% of people will value themselves enough to take a risk, to bet on themselves. And I know that that's you. If you feel inside that you're special, if you feel inside that you're different, that you have a message that you want to share, that you want to impact people in a different way, feed that voice. Don't drown it. Because if you pay attention to your intuition, it can literally change your life. Take action, invest in yourself, define your rich life, plan for it, take a leap of faith, be ready to adjust and scale, and in a year from now, your life will change. See you next time.